First off, start with a rough sketch and then refine it. Once the sketch is done, choose a solid brush for the line art. This standard brush works totally fine, and for the line art color, use pure black. On a new layer, draw the line art. The thickness of the line art should differ here and there so that it doesn't look too boring. Once the line art is finished, create a new layer below the line art layer and use it to fill the whole character with one color. The reason for this is just to make the coloring stage simpler. Now create a clipping group with this layer as a base. If you now create layers within this clipping group and check this icon here, your brush strokes will be limited to the area of the character. Now create a separate layer in this clipping group, one each for the skin, hair, clothing, facial features, etc., and fill in the respective areas with a color. To imitate the style of my landlady Noona, if your character has a white skin tone, choose an even lighter color than you usually would. For the hair and clothing, choose a color that is light and not too saturated. Usually the light colors are very slightly desaturated, as I have observed in my research. Next, for the shadow, click on the skin layer and hit this icon so you can only draw within the skin. For the shadow color, choose a slightly redder hue and shift saturation and value like so. For blocking in colors in general, if you want to achieve the style of my landlady Noona, I highly recommend using a brush like this. It is like the line art brush I used, but the pressure not only influences size but also opacity of the brush stroke. Once you've blocked in the shadow, choose an airbrush and go into the shadow areas with a light color to soften the transition and make the shadows feel less static. Let's jump to the clothing real quick. Choose a shadow color, block in the shadow, then choose a midtone and paint in some folds, etc. Once again, you can use the airbrush to soften things. Next, I add a blush, shade the lower eyelids like this, and add a highlight on the nose. Also, an important step is to add occlusion shadows by going to the line art layer and adding more line art there. Before we finish rendering the skin, let's get to one of the most important aspects of my landlady Noona style, the hair. First, pick a slightly darker color and airbrush the top and bottom of the hair to make it look a little more three-dimensional. Then, use this same dark color and go into the light area with a hard brush like so, mimicking hair strands throwing shadows. Then, add a new layer for the highlights. Their shape should look somewhat like this, and the highlights should get bigger towards the edges of the head and smaller right on the forehead. Then use the smudge tool and airbrush to make the highlight look like this, and use a hard brush to draw in individual hair strands. Then on the hair layer, set your airbrush to color dodge, choose a similar color to the hair and lightly brush beneath the highlight area to make it really pop. Once the highlights are done, merge the layer with the hair layer. Next is a second pass of highlights. Add a new layer and add slightly less noticeable highlights like so. Again, use the smudge tool and airbrush to make it look like this, and merge the highlight layer with the hair layer again. Next, to make the hair feel more detailed, choose a solid brush, set it to multiply mode, and use a color like this to draw in individual strands of hair from top to bottom. Next, we will once again add a third and final layer for highlights. These highlights at the top can be more muted since they usually reflect the sky or a ceiling, which aren't too saturated. Mesh the layers and refine the hair a bit more by adding these lines mimicking highlights on strands of hair and softening the hair by brushing around the face with a bright orange color. Also add a bit more color dodge wherever you see it necessary. Don't overdo it though. Then shade around the hair shape with a dark hair color to give it a little more dimension and in order to make the rim light stand out more easily. That being said, add a rim light. After all these steps, the hair should look somewhat similar to the hair in my landlady Noona. Let's jump back to the skin rendering then. First, click this icon on the line art layer and change the parts of the line art that should be softened, like the occlusion shadow areas, the nose and eyes. Regarding the eyes, the rendering isn't that special here, just make it darker at the top, lighter at the bottom, and add highlights and stuff, just like you would with any other anime style eyes. Additionally, you can also give them heart-shaped white pupils if the character is, I don't know, maybe eating something they really like. Add some eyelashes and highlights on top of it. Soften the eyebrows by erasing the line art and using the smudge tool. In case the eyebrows look too smudged now, you can draw in some individual strands along the eyebrow using a hard brush. Choose a reddish saturated color for the lips and make it get lighter towards the edges of the lip. Add a shadow line underneath the lower lip and add highlights on top using a hard brush. Render the face some more until you think that it looks okay. Then add these blush lines on the cheeks. Then add a layer below the color dodge layer and add some individual hair strands to make the illustration look more detailed. Lastly, although this is an optional step only, I like to create a filter layer on top of it all and mess around with some of these curves. In this case, I slightly increase the redness in the light values to kinda make it pop more. If you'd like to see a tutorial for the more spicy parts of my Landlady Noona style, let me know in the comments or follow me on Blue Sky for updates on that matter.